Well, probably no state is better identified with a movie than Oklahoma, but our movie roots go well beyond that iconic musical Oklahoma and are featured at a new exhibit at the Oklahoma History Center. How closely tied is Oklahoma's history to that of the movies?
Well, Oklahoma history, especially as a state, parallels the history of the movies. Thomas Alva Edison developed a movie camera in the 1890s. We know that he sent a crew to Oklahoma Territory in 1904. The earliest film shot in the state was an Edison crew who came in to shoot a little short on Indians fighting the cowboys. So the Indians ride into the scene and they attack the wagon and go on, and then the cowboys attack and there's a running battle, and that's it. The first full-length movie that's 87 minutes was 1920, shot in the Wichita Mountains, 300 Kiowas and Comanches. Quanah Parker's son is the star, called Daughter of Dawn. We have resurrected, restored, and we're now showing that movie. And then Oklahomans have been in the movies since the earliest days because cowboys and Indians were always part of movie industry. Well, we had the cowboys and the Indians. Ben Johnson, raised to be the perfect cowboy in Osage County, learns to be a roper and rider and how to take care of himself. Well, he gets into the movies by 1941 in a Howard Hughes movie as a wrangler, stays in Hollywood, uses his Oklahoma cowboy skills to be this great actor who won an Academy Award. But Tom Mix was a cowboy at the 101 Ranch, is discovered by these filmmakers, goes to Hollywood. And then you have the American Indians, starting with Jim Thorpe was in over 60 movies while he lived in Los Angeles. And so the Indians would go to Hollywood to be in movies, Oklahomans would go to Hollywood. You can follow it all the way to today. Wes Studi, who grew up in No Fire Holla in the Cherokee Nation, did not speak English until the age of 7, becomes a star in the 1980s in Dances with Wolves, and of course that great character of Magua in Last of the Mohicans and all of his other movies. And you get people like Ron Howard, whose great-grandfathers on two sides of the family claimed land in 1893 near Cost City. Rance, his dad, who is also an actor, grew up on the ranch, married another actress from Duncan. Ron Howard was born in Duncan, and then they get him into the movies because they have acting careers, and he makes movies, including almost an autobiographical movie called Far and Away, about an Irishman leaving Ireland and making the land run. That's his great-grandparents' story. We see Oklahomans behind the scene as producers and directors. Blake Edwards, who made all the Pink Panther movies, was from Tulsa. People are surprised that all of these Oklahomans, the sound editors, the editor for all of Lawrence Kasdan's movies, The Big Chill, Grand Canyon, Carol Littleton from Miami, Oklahoma, edited all of those movies. And so Oklahomans have been involved behind the camera, on the screen, producing, the publicists, the people who make the business. There's a very strong Oklahoma flavor in the history of movies. And in this 8,000 square foot exhibit, we try to tell that story by telling the stories of the Carol Littletons and the Ben Johnsons and the Blake Edwards and the Rex Lynn's and the people who have made film history.
And while all of these people have very noted careers, is there one person that you can point to that probably was the most popular Oklahoman in the movies?
The top grossing star in the movies was Will Rogers. He was the very top actor. He would have been the Tom Cruise, De Niro of his day. He was only supplanted in his last year of movies by a new actress called Shirley Temple. And so, but Will Rogers had been the top grossing movie star in Hollywood in 1931, 32, 33, and so he was at the top. He was a nationally known character. He was known around the world, the champion of the common man. He had newspaper columns, he had radio shows, he appeared with presidents, with senators, he was a popular speaker. This man was king of popular culture. And so we have on exhibit here two artifacts from Will Rogers' career. We have the Confederate jacket that he wore in Judge Priest, where he played the second Confederate, who's now a judge. Will Rogers' dad, Clem, was a member of the Indian Home Guard of the Confederates who fought during the Civil War. That's part of his personal history. We also have a medieval jacket that he wore in a Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's court. and then other artifacts from those movies. So we tell that story. But we have probably the actor who has the most stuff in the exhibit is Ben Johnson, because he was a real cowboy. His dad was a real cowboy, the foreman of the Chapman Barnard Ranch in the Osage. We have his chaps, his saddle, his hats. We have his stories. We have footage of him wrangling horses, of talking to people and being the cowboy. We have footage of Ben. We have his stunt man bag that he'd carry his gear in. We have his awards. We have his Golden Globe. We have his scripts. We have costumes. We have stuff. We have John Wayne's shirt that he wore in the movie The Searchers, which is an Oklahoma story where the Parkers go after Cynthia Ann Parker, who's been kidnapped by the Comanches. Well, that movie is based on that story. We have that shirt, and we show scenes of the movie with John Wayne wearing the shirt that's on exhibit here. So we have lots of artifacts, lots of stories, and people will have shared memory. So as we talk about Ben Johnson in the Last Picture Show, people will go back to when they saw the Last Picture Show. When we talk about the writer who wrote the screenplay for Bridge Over the River Kwai, this was an Oklahoman who was blacklisted. And you see his Oscar with a black hood over the head of the Oscar because that symbolized his attitude about being blacklisted. We have that black hood on that Oscar. So we'll take people back to when they saw Shane and 3 Oklahomans starring in that movie. Ben Johnson, Alan Ladd, lived in Oklahoma City. Van Heflin grew up in Oklahoma City. So that's an Oklahoma all-star cast in one movie, Shane. That's arguably one of the greatest Westerns of all time. And so people can share their own personal history with their families, their parents, their kids, their grandkids, and come and have a real family experience and see the artifacts, see how Oklahomans have been part of shaping the image of America through the art of movies.
Now, Dr. Blackburn tells me that one of the most distinctive voices ever heard on the silver screen is that of an Oklahoman. If you'd like to find out who it is, just head to okrising.com and click on this week's Value Added.